today's virtual lecture, we're still going to continue our discussion of why to leverage Microsoft Access. First, what we're going to focus on is really understanding some key definitions when looking at Microsoft Access as a personal database. As previously stated, a database truly is a collection of tables. From a table perspective, we're viewing this as a collection of records that share a common fundamental characteristic. For example, patients and locations can each be stored in their own table. Additionally, it's important to understand that a schema is a view that interrelates tables to each other. Records are basic units of information, relational tables, and a record is composed of fields. Queries are a set of instructions to a database engine to retrieve and sort and format. The database engine is a software application that stores the database and enables querying. As we showed previously in class, this is essentially the high level what a table and field definitions look like within Microsoft Access. This has not really changed from earlier versions of Access. Different topics of conversation today are going to include highlights from Access 2007, Access 2010, and Access 2013. Please note, however, that these items have not changed in the overall, with some slight tweaks and variations. The key to look at with the components from a key perspective is both where the ID fields are as it's set up as a primary key, as well as what the field type is. Now, when we get into the other relational database engines, we've mentioned Oracle and SQL Server. I haven't spent much time yet discussing some of the open source items like MySQL and Postgres, but we'll get to those as the semester continues. We spent a little bit of time so far understanding what's really behind relational databases. The key with understanding the relational database is really to look at it at its simplest level. Previously, we've discussed the concept of a course enrollment system. But for this example, we're looking at essentially information around doctors. If you have three tables, one around patients, one around visits, and one around issue, you're going to see that patients visit doctors, and each visit is related to an issue. And setting up those unique identifiers will allow you to truly see where the relationships occur. As an example, every patient will have one record in the patient's table that uniquely identifies them. Every visit will be unique, so there will be one record in the visits table. Understanding the concept of unique will be key for moving forward. Rows in different tables will be related to one another using a shared key or an identifier, which is unique to that table. You'll also need to understand that there can be multiple visits for any given patient, and that there could be multiple issue records for any given patient. Now we're going to talk a little bit about keys. When I'm talking about keys, it's really going to be what are the overall true unique identifiers. So if I'm looking at a shared key, it's going to be an identifier that is unique. Again, it is unique to each of the tables, but it is something that can be referenced by another table. As an example, your patient ID and in your patients table and your patient ID in your visits table would be related. The example below shows this. When we're talking about the database schema, it really sets you up as a roadmap for querying. Essentially, the schema will describe all the tables and the fields that are in the database, and will assist you in describing the relationships between tables, which is crucial in enabling retrieval of all desired data. Essentially, when you're looking at this, it's a matter of keeping things simple. It's very important to understand your schema if you're going to properly query, and if you don't understand your schema, you're going to get the wrong results. For example, if I'm taking a query between the patients table and the visits table, I'm going to want to ensure that I am tying and relating the tables together properly. Critical in querying Microsoft Access is really how the queries are set up. So if I'm going to be doing a query, I'm essentially looking at how I am best going to do the extraction. And that's through structured query language. I've mentioned on numerous occasions the concept of select from. So right now, I want to talk a little bit about select. At a highest level, the select statement is the key statement that you need to understand querying. Within that, it is going to allow you to really see and really show what you are looking to run and how you're looking to run it. It's hard to see this in this color, but essentially what this query is doing is it's selecting last name and first name from patients. And what you see below from a wizard perspective is how it would look within Microsoft Access. Now, if we're using the wizards or the query builder, you get additional levels of complexity in terms of what you're able to do and how you're able to do it. So if I was looking at a more informative select statement, I'm going to be looking at different items and different functions. So if, for example, I wanted to select how many distinct individuals were part of a function or party, I could perform this task with the following statement. There's plenty of great information available online for additional examples. For some of these, I'll provide sample databases for moving forward. Next, I'd like to discuss uploading data in Microsoft Access. If you are unable to view the video, this video will be posted separately as a link. One of the important keys in designing tables on Microsoft Access is to make sure you get everything properly set up before you work on queries. This goes into the concept of having an approved database design. If I'm going in and I'm creating a table, there's several ways to start. We've seen the datasheet and design view so far, and we haven't spent a lot of time with the table wizard. Focusing on the table wizard truly allows you to edit the structure of the table and set your properties for the fields. In doing so, I'll be entering my field name, my data type, and my description. Also critical is understanding the naming conventions for your tables and setting your primary keys. As shown in earlier slides, there are a number of data types available. Specifically, we spend most time focusing on text, memo, number, and date and time. I've got specific feelings related to auto number, which we can address at a later point as we get closer on your assignment. From a field properties perspective, the key that I like to point out is field size. Essentially, from a field size perspective, we're looking at the number of characters for that given field. As the semester proceeds, we'll be looking at some of the other different properties, but for initial components, we'll be looking at essentially what the field size is within the properties table. More deeply into the semester, we'll be going over the concept of lookup tabs. These will be leveraged predominantly when you're looking at yes-no questions or or overwrites for forms and reports as you're reviewing later processes and chapters. Key within Microsoft Access is the concept of an index. An index is a hidden lookup table on one or more fields. Indexes are very, very, very predominant in larger databases like Oracle and SQL Server. Essentially, from an index, you're looking at primary key information, unique indexes, as well as understanding why and why not to change table design. As previously discussed, relationships are the key with relational databases. Understanding the relationships at the time of your design will allow you to avoid data integrity issues moving forward. It also allows you to manage relationships and show graphically how you are intending to tie the different tables together. If you need to see information about the relationship within Access, you're able to double-click to show properties. Please note that relationships can be more than one field. As you're reviewing the tables that you're completed, please understand that you may want to print the relationship window for documentation. This brings me to several design tips. First, I always recommend to get table design down before you start building. The more you understand, the more you document, the more it will be successful. Second, name the primary key field. Use the table name without the prefix. So you would have in table products, it will be products ID primary key. When you're doing that, you're going to want to ensure that you're naming your foreign keys the same as the primary key they join to. I do not agree necessarily with the comment of auto. Always use the auto number primary key. For me, I tend to avoid it, but there are some uses that we can discuss throughout the semester. As mentioned in class, ensuring the appropriate data types will allow you to make sure that your queries are working properly, and will also allow you to set relationships on tables and enforce referential integrity. The first step in organizing your data is to identify the individual fields and the field values. As previously stated, a collection of related tables is a database or a relational database. I've mentioned keys on numerous occasions, so right now I'm actually going to take time and read the definition. From a primary key perspective, a primary key is a field or a collection of fields whose values uniquely identify each record in a table. For example, my Loyola ID is the primary key that establishes who I am within Loyola's finance and accounting systems. Next is the concept of a foreign key. At the highest level, a foreign key is a primary key in a different table that exists in the second table. So when you include the primary key from one table in the second table to form a relationship, it is then called the primary key. This example shows how you are then showing which fields are primary keys and then which fields are foreign keys. On the first day of class, we showed the breakdown between data, database management system, and database application. So if I'm looking at this from a database management system perspective, again my definition is that it is the software that allows you to create the databases. Now in a relational database system, again that data is organized in tables. I highly recommend spending the next few minutes exploring the Microsoft Access tool and product. From that point, we'll then move on to the next version of this lecture. Thank you.